Okay, so once again, I'm doing two episodes in one video. Not because, like the last one, that one was lesser than the other, but because it just had to be together. I was so excited to see the last episode that. So, anyway, um, it finally came out that Trevor had been working with the Department of Damage Control, which, again, this would not have happened if once he realized that Simon is a friend, he would say, oh, by the way, this is how things started, but I'm trying to, keep them at arm's length. Like they gave me a wire, I destroyed it, and just say how he was playing damage control. But no. So it comes out, ironically, when Simon is freaking out about Kathy Friedman doing a piece on Simon and Trevor simply because she has known to assassinate characters. So he's having a complete meltdown, and it turns out it was Trevor who ended up having the complete meltdown while talking with her because she asked basically about his Mandarin days and how he got out of prison and he got arrested again. So I was under the impression that, Trevor got out of prison on his own merits because he never thought of himself as the Mandarin. He was just playing a role, and he honestly didn't think that, like the bullet was real until maybe after the shot was fired. So I thought, okay, they let him out early because even though he did that stuff, he isn't the actual Mandarin. So, but no, it turns out someone helped him escape. We don't know who, but somebody apparently helped him escape. He denies it, but I'm going to go with Kathy Friedman on this one. That's the thing that happened. So Simon is putting two and two together because he's not a freaking moron. Especially since, I guess, because everybody around him said nice things. His girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend, said, oh yeah, I know about your secret. I mean, we've lived together. Of course I know. I just, am not going to make a big deal of it because you didn't. You wanted to keep it hush hush for some reason. Obviously, she didn't know about the doorman clause, which, if it was known, he would never work as an actor again. So he asked Trevor. Trevor finally told him, and instead of explaining, just out and out saying, yes, I was working for the Department of Damage Control, he said, I am. I mean, why didn't he say I was, and I'm basically trying to keep them at bay from you by stringing them along? Something, anything. But even with that, he just looked guilty, and so even though he did try to apologize, Simon understandably stormed off. And he goes into one of the warehouses. I guess he figured that was a safe place to lose his shit. And he caused an explosion. I mean, I don't know. I think that going somewhere. Now, granted, nobody was there at the time, which is probably why he did it there, to ensure that nobody got hurt. But still, I would think that, going, I don't know, you're in California, going out in the desert somewhere, where the chances of anybody knowing about it are are nil, and nobody can accuse you of trying to be a domestic terrorist or whatever, or being unstable, because you know, you went to a safe space before you lost it. So Simon leaves, and we are led to believe that the Department of Damage Control is after Simon. But Trevor calls Simon, which I'm actually surprised he answered the phone. I honestly thought he would, have it go to voicemail or something. But Trevor told me, look, I'm going to make things right. I've bungled everything I've ever tried to do. And my heart broke when I heard him say that. So, but I'm going to make things right so, your career can take off. And he basically does the Mandarin again and claims that he's the cause of the explosion. Now, Agent Dumbass, I have to give him credit. At least he understood that it truly wasn't Trevor, that it was Simon, and that Trevor was taking the fall. And he's like, fine, I'll let you take the fall, because he wanted to put him in jail anyway. And so they take him away where, because he's super dangerous. So they took him to, I guess, a maximum security detention center or something. So Simon finishes the movie, even though he's totally bummed about Trevor, because he realizes, even though Trevor did basically string him along, because he couldn't be bothered to tell him at any point, and he had multiple opportunities to say, by the way, the Department of Damage Control asked me to keep tabs on you, and I'm trying to string them along so I don't go to jail, but you don't get into trouble either. He had so many opportunities. So Simon is bummed that he lost Trevor. They go to the movie premiere. And I'm not sure. Was it one of the guys that was at the resort, at the retreat? At Von Kovacs's retreat? The guy looked familiar. Obviously not Trevor. And everybody is proud of him. His brother is proud of him. They mentioned his father again. I really wish they had said what had happened to his father. Now, it's possible he died of just natural causes, but it's never made clear what happened to their father, because there was some reason why Eric was constantly pissed off at him. So, even when he was 13 and he had the kitchen fire, his brother was super pissed at him. So there must have been something, but it's never made clear what happened. So Simon concocts this cover story. Now, this is how intelligent the Department of Damage Control is. The guy he grabs, which I'm pretty sure we saw him earlier with Damage Control, but I'm not sure, because he and his wife look familiar. But he concocts this scheme, which tells you he is in total control of his powers. He just occasionally blows his top, probably quite literally, but for the most part he has control. And he is doing research into this guy, which he's like, I'm nobody. Why do you want to play me? And never, ever, and he won't tell him any details about the movie, which most people would be like, can you give me at least something? Am I a main character? Am I a supporting character? What the hell? I mean, just some random dude. How, you know. But apparently Simon paid them off in the sense that right before the shit hit the fan, Chuck gets a call from his wife saying that they got this big deposit and you can quit your job. So I'm assuming it was from Simon. Because Wonder Man was a hit, so it makes sense that he has the money to do that. So he just so happens to know where Trevor's cell is. So he must have done research before this. Probably from the minute Janelle told him that he's in a black box. Nobody can get him out. Which the answer is, hold my beer. So he finds Trevor, and Trevor's like, what are you doing here? I'm breaking you out. It's like, this was kind of, to prevent you from having to do anything stupid. He didn't want him to be on the run from the feds. And so I don't know what they're going to do next. Are they going to manage to go to that pocket dimension that he was in? How is, what's going to happen to them? But, it's like, okay, they're coming this way. There's no way you're going to get out. It's like, yeah, I know. I'm not going out that way. Now, it was only a question of, I thought that they were going to go through the wall. I really thought that he was just going to, break through the wall. Because it looked like it was all on dry land, so he could have done that. But no, they went up. And now I guess this is sort of to make a nod to the fact that Wonder Man started off as a bad guy in the comics and then became a part of the Avengers. So it's entirely possible that it's a nod to that. Because even Agent Dumbass said that he could either be a threat or an asset. Which, makes you wonder if that was the whole idea from the very get-go. That he was telling Trevor that this guy is unstable and, he's a threat, blah, blah, blah. But I wonder if from the very beginning, he already had an idea that he could be an asset. Because he can manipulate ions. So I don't know what they're going to do next. If he's going to show up in Doomsday, because there was no post-credit scene, so we have no idea if there is a continuation. But, what's going to happen with Trevor, where we're going to see him again, because, we're probably going to see him again in some capacity. So, because that's how it ends up. He breaks Trevor out, and that's the end of the show. So, I don't know if they plan to do anything more with this character. I actually hope they do, but since there's going to be a reset, hopefully there's a reset on his attitude. Because pretty much from the entire show, neither I nor my mom particularly liked him. Probably because he is such a self-centered jerk. This idea that he only worries about himself. And like with Wonder Man, I thought he was going to screw that up because he was nitpicking a line, which Trevor, cleverly said, well, why don't we just say it like this? But the fact that he was like, I just am concerned about this one line, sort of as a callback to the fact that he totally annihilated American Horror Story, the entire script. So I don't know if they knew that, if they were aware of that, and that's why they were like, oh, this whole thing sucks, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no. So obviously his career as an actor is shot, just like Trevor's is. The question now becomes, like I said, where they end up next. Is he going to be part of the Avengers? Is he going to be part of the X-Men? Because we know that's coming up. Is he going to be a part of a different team? Is he just going to be on the run for a while so they're hiding out somewhere? Because again, they're in California. Trevor knows Shang-Chi. So he's got that going for him. Let's see what else is there about these last two episodes. Let me see. I did like how Trevor stood up for Simon when they were trying to convince Simon, to do a Netflix project, do this, do that, and he's like, but I like doing theater. And I have noticed some comments of certain actors, certain old projects, where people would be like, oh, this person dropped off the face of the earth. It's like, bitch, they've been doing theater. They've been on Broadway. They haven't dropped off the face of the earth. You just don't follow Broadway. If you don't follow theater and you only follow the movies or TV, then yeah, you probably think that, but no, they have a perfectly good career going. It's just not in a area that you want them to. So that is a thing. This idea that you're not really an actor unless you're, in front of the camera, as opposed to doing theater, which, a lot of these actors got their start in theater in one way or the other. And some of them like it, some of them prefer being in front of a camera. It just depends on who you are. So, but that's not dropping off the face of the earth. That's not lesser than being in front of a camera. It just is different. Let's see, what else is there? When Simon first went through it, he's going to go through the movie and then the premiere. I was bummed. I really thought that, first off, before the whole Trevor's going to take the fall, I really thought that Damage Control was just going to come to the taping at some point. But then when he didn't immediately go to rescue Trevor, I was bummed that, come on, Simon, but I guess he wanted to go through it and, think about how he could help Trevor. Or maybe he wasn't thinking about Trevor at that time. It's hard to say with him. And it wasn't until after he saw the finished product that he was really missing Trevor. So he decided to break him out. Like I said, what's next for Wonder Man and Trevor? Who knows? But I guess the fact that they kept showing the scene or kept rehearsing the scene of Barnaby's betrayal. I guess that should have, clued people in that was foreshadowing that, Trevor was going to screw over Simon. But I really, really thought that because he had so many opportunities, and he did seem to imply that he was just trying to buy himself some time by saying, oh yeah, he's unstable, he's danger, but nobody's going to believe a former terrorist, so I need to gather more evidence. Where that was just him trying to, get damage control off his ass. So, so yeah, there were plenty of times for Trevor to come clean. So I really didn't want to believe that this was foreshadowing to Trevor admitting to Simon that he was stringing him along. Let's see, what else is there? Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to mention about these last 2 episodes. I think I covered everything I wanted to with these episodes. I was kind of bummed that, I remembered to check for a post-credit scene and there wasn't one. But anyway, with that, I will see you guys in the next video.